What is up, Bootube? My name is Titan and I am a mangaka here to share my stories and crazy life. If you're interested in reading any of my work, you can find the links down in the description below. Now, let's dive into how I survived the Appalachian Mountains. To the uneducated out there, the Appalachian Mountains are a mountain system that stretches nearly 2,000 miles, all the way from the northeastern United States down into the south, and they're famous for their incredible scenery and natural beauty, and of course, the numerous piling accounts of missing persons. That's right. So many people go missing in these janky ass dirt piles that they've either fallen off a cliff or they were murdered by mud-eating mouth breathers. And this is a story on how I almost died in these mountains. So strap in or strap on. So I was about 15 or 16 when my family and extended family decided to visit North Carolina. Now, I'm from the coast, so I grew up next to the ocean in the city, so I never really saw any mountains or forests like this. This was an entirely new experience for me and for my family. I've actually been to the Appalachian Mountains 3 different times. I'm going to be talking about the first time that I ever visited. We rented a cabin that sat in the middle of the mountains right next to the super big river. And I believe it was day 3 when all the kids and I decided that we wanted to go fishing. Now this river stretched coming down from a mountain to where we were, and then it was going down the mountain to a waterfall. We all decided to go fishing. We were all out there for a few hours, and one by one people started to lose interest. As all these quitters left, it was just me and my cousin. In the middle of the river there's this rock line, so we decided to go out to that rock line because we knew that's where all the big fish like to hang out. As we're moving to this rock line, it starts to drizzle, like a light rain drizzle, and we didn't really think too much of it because the sun was still like out and there was not really any clouds. And we were used to sun showers. Back home, we'd always get sun showers, so it wasn't out of the ordinary for us. It was something that we've seen, so we didn't even acknowledge it. We just went to the rock line, and this rock line was above the water. We go to this rock line, and we're still fishing, and we're not really noticing that the water level is rising. And if you guys ever go visit mountains and you're in a river and it starts to rain, even if it's a light drizzle, you need to start heading out because that water level rises really, really fast. We're fishing on these rocks, we're not getting even a bite, so we start horseplaying on the rocks, and these rocks are super slippery. They got algae and all sorts of gunk growing on, and we're horseplaying. My little cousin's being an idiot, and he starts pretending like he's slipping in. So he's pretending to slip in, and then this actually slips into the water, and he loses his water shoes and his fishing rod. It gets swept downstream, and he's trying to swim back to the rocks. I'm laughing my off because I think he's kidding, but he's not. He's like, no, I'm serious. I can't reach the rocks. I can't even touch the bottom because this river was really, really shallow. You could walk out in the middle of the river and it would be at your knees. That just shows you how shallow this river was and now how fast the water was rising. So he's freaking out, and I'm like, oh, it's getting serious right now. So I'm trying to think of what to do, and then he starts screaming. He started screaming, everybody started running out of the cabins, running out and running to the river. And I'm thinking, alright, grab onto my rod, and I'll just pull you back to the rocks. And he was like, okay. And I'm like, but you gotta reach. So I extend out my rod so he can grab a hold of it. And he's like, I can see it right now in my eyes. He's swimming so hard to grab onto this rod. And you would know what this asshole does? He grabs the rod and yanks me in. So we both fall in. I can't touch the bottom, and it was freaking me out because if there's one thing I didn't know about these rivers is that there's big rocks, and what happens to people when they get swept down rivers, your leg or foot can get pinned behind a rock, and the force of the water can topple over you and cause you to drown. So that was my biggest concern. Our dads are yelling, swim across, swim across. But the water was so deep and so strong, it was pulling us to the opposite side of the river. This river was not like a small skinny stream, it was a big fat river. And instead of going towards our family, we were being dragged downstream on the opposite side of the river. And at the end of that river, we knew there was a waterfall, but that was the next fear that I had on my mind. It was, are we going to get stuck behind a rock and drown, or are we going to be carried down this freaking waterfall? Trust me, we tried to swim across, but the force and the way that the current was, is that it was pushing us to the opposite side of the river, on the other side of the mountain. The water, so we're getting swept back. We grab onto each other, getting carried down this river. Our family's on the other side chasing us, and I see tree branches coming off the mountain into the water, and I grabbed a hold of them, and we were just holding on and just waiting and waiting for somebody to save us, but nobody could get in that river. They would have been swept downstream. So I started thinking, okay, what's the next plan? Because this river is still rising. I remember looking up to the sky and seeing that the sun had slipped behind these thick clouds, and the rain continued to drizzle into the river, and I started to look around. I'm trying to think of how the hell we're gonna get out of this river alive. So I'm looking behind us, and I see like this little plot of land. It's like a little beach of just sand, about a doormat size beach of sand, and it led up to like a small trail up. And I'm thinking, that's our ticket out of here. We need to get to that little beach because we can climb up the mountain and try to find like a phone or something. So I yell at my dad and I tell him we're going to be climbing up to find a phone. He's freaking out and telling us to stay right there. We're calling somebody, stay right there. But where we were, it's not like you can just call the cops or the fire station and they'll come out and save you. It's so hard to get to people in these remote places, and that's what makes these mountains so dangerous. So I tell my cousin my plan. We're going to let go of these branches and we're going to drift and swim to that little beach. And we held onto each other tight, and when we let go, oh my god, it was so scary because the water was like black. You could not see the bottom, you could not touch the bottom, and when we drift over to the beach, that current got even faster than what it was before. But we did manage to get to that little beach, and man, let me tell you, that mud was so soupy, it was almost like quicksand. Once we got on top of the beach itself, the water started to rise up again. And so we get to this little beach, and my dad and his dad are yelling, stay there, you need to freaking stay there. So we're just standing there. And I told my little cousin, I'm like, we're climbing up this mountain, and we're getting the hell out of here. And so I looked at my father again, and I told him, I'm like, we're climbing up this mountain. And they were freaking out because you can't see what's on the other side of this thing. Like, we have no idea what could be in these mountains. Bears, lions, freaking squirrels, you don't know. But we went up them anyways. So we start climbing up, soaking wet, without shoes, like a bunch of homeless kids. And my next paranoid thought was, we're gonna come across a bear. There's gonna be a bear in these woods, and we're gonna get eaten. And we eventually lose sight of our family because we're now entering the forest, and it's very steep. You lose breath hiking up these mountains. And so the higher we got, we eventually came across this massive, like, wall of vines and roots. And when you looked through it, you could see train tracks. And oh my lord, did that give me hope. Because that was going to lead to the city. We couldn't push our way through the vines because they were so thick, and we had to actually climb over them. And we eventually get over to the other side. But what's really freaky is that behind the railroad was a random ass cornfield. Children of the cornfield. In the middle of the mountains in North Carolina. That freaked me out. All I could think of was the movie Signs. I know I might sound like a paranoid person. It's because I 100% am. I'm like borderline schizo. But all I can think about is that there's aliens running around the cornfield. Because I watched that movie Signs, and that movie traumatized me as a kid. So mom and dad, if you're listening and watching this video, you gave me some alien corn trauma. I didn't tell my little cousin about the alien movie I saw in the cornfield because he was freaking out. He was crying, freaking out, and I was gonna put that alien corn trauma on him, so I kept that shit to myself. We're moving around the cornfield that it stretched across. It wasn't super big, but it stretched across the train track. So we get through this cornfield, and then we finally found them. Houses and cabins. But on the downside, these cabins were sketchy. They were broken down. I'm talking like the windows were broken into, doors were left open, there was no lights on, there was like no cars. So we're walking through these sketchy broken cabins, and at this time we were looking for any sign of life because it was quiet. It was so quiet. The birds weren't even singing. They stopped singing a while back. Until we reached this side of the mountain, the birds stopped singing. One thing I remember very fondly is that these birds were singing all the time, but on the other side of the mountain they stopped. And all you could hear was the rain. That was it. No cars, no people, no music, no nothing, no animals, just rain. And then eventually we stumbled across a house with a car. It was very nice, it was upkept, and we knew somebody was living there. So we approached this house and we knocked on the door. And thankfully, it was a very, very nice old lady who happened to live in the same state that we were from. It was so cool. This very nice lady let us use her phone, and my cousin was able to call his dad. She gave them the coordinates of how to find us and what roads to take and what bridge to go over. She saved our life that day because she helped calm us down. She told us how to get out of this area that we were stuck in, because we were like in a crevice of a mountain. I don't even know how to explain it. I would have to show you pictures, but obviously I did not have a camera at the time. So she showed us how to get out of the area, and what we had to do is walk straight down this one way, past these houses, and to a stop sign, and at that stop sign is where our dads would be pulling in with their truck. So we thanked her, and then we started walking down. It was like this road straight down along the train tracks, and we were walking down. We started to relax a little bit, just talking about what happened, and oh man, that was such a close one, we could have died, yo. And then we heard music. Not normal music, fucking carnival music. And it really confused us. As we were walking down the road, I kid you not, I cannot make this up, there was an abandoned carnival on the side of the road, on the side of the train tracks. What are the chances of that? And there was bouncy houses. There was that thing that you sit on the horses and you go in a circle. Is it carousel? Carousel? I don't know. Food stands, small rides, nothing like big and crazy. There wasn't like a Ferris wheel or anything, just like these really small rides. And the thing that really freaked me out is there was like boxes on the back of the trains. I can't think of what they're called right now. One of them was sitting close to the road. It was left open, and there was all this clown stuff on the inside. Clown costumes. There was like a hacky sack thing that was a giant clown head. All this clown gear and random carnival out for anybody to take. There was no cars. There was no people there. There was nobody there. It was empty with carnival music and these random rides. We're just looking at it and we're freaked out, man. Because when we were looking around, we heard the scream. I don't think it was the old lady. It sounded like a woman's scream. As soon as we heard that scream, we started running our little asses down the road. Barefoot, scraped up, wet and muddy, running down the road, terrified. And then eventually we found the houses, and then we found my uncle's truck. That was my very first experience in the Appalachian Mountains. I looked up in that area about carnivals just to see, like, what the hell even was that? I couldn't find anything. I just feel like that was one of the strangest, scariest experiences in my entire life. Especially after being swept down a river and cornfield. It's like one thing after another, after another, after another. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you have any experience in the Appalachian Mountains, please comment below your experience. I would love to read. Thank you so much. Be sure to like and subscribe, and have a wonderful day.